Hey, welcome back to Mocktails with Marina. I'm your host, Marina, and I am so glad you're here. Today's episode is something that I haven't seen talked about a lot, and honestly, it's something that I used to not even have language for. They say that business isn't personal, but I entirely disagree, and I think it's important for us to chat about what it means to actually be lifestyle rich. You know, there's a lot of people out there that chase profits that say, let's get 30K, 50K, 100K months. Let's optimize at all costs. And that can leave us feeling soulless. It can leave us feeling empty no matter how much money you have. And then you kind of can get absorbed by some demons, right? Our goal with all of our clients and everything that we do is specifically to help people become lifestyle rich. So whatever that means to you in terms of making your life feel whole, your heart feel happy. And for some people, that a lot of money is required to make that happen. And that's cool. Other people, it's less about the money, more about the freedom of scheduling or the freedom of working with exactly who they want, no matter how niche that might be. For other people, it's just being able to be present with their family, whether they are part of the business or not. There's so many different ways to look at this. So that kind of inspired me to want to talk about family management today, and running your household like a business. So it's one thing to design a business that helps you become lifestyle rich, but if your lifestyle does not support the goal that you're trying to make your business create, then it's all kind of for nothing, right? So we're going to talk about designing your home operations so that everyone has clarity, nothing falls through the cracks, and you're actually building a life that works and you're not just surviving it. So again, I can't stress enough that your goal is to make this business that works for you. Well, then you want to make sure that your life is set up in a way that supports every goal. And before I dive in, I just want to say that if this is not your season, no shame. We're all in different chapters. But if you're someone who's been feeling the weight of running your home and your business, and you've maybe been white knuckling it, then this episode is absolutely for you. So we're going to get into it. And the last little note I do want to add here is, I'm sharing my personal story, like our family's personal story. You can swap different members of your household in for different responsibilities. I'm not here to tell you who needs to do what specifically. I'm just using our lives as an example, and then you can kind of make it make sense for you. So let's start by shattering the working class hero story. So something I need to say out loud, because I think a lot of us have been sold a story that we haven't fully examined, and that is the working class hero, right? The grind, the hustle. You know the image, the person who's always busy, always on, always producing. And somewhere along the way, we started treating that like it's the ideal. Like if you're not stretched thin, somehow you're not doing enough. And I want to lovingly but firmly push back on that, because our truth is that I work up to 20 hours a week, and this business supports my family. And my son is always attached to me at this point, right? Like I'm not telling you that to flex. I'm telling you that because I think it matters to show you what's possible when you design things intentionally. I pick my schedule. We work from home. My husband and I have never had to leave our son with someone else just to keep the lights on. When we want to pick up and work from somewhere else for a stretch, we absolutely can. That flexibility is not an accident at all. It is 100% the design we chose for our life and our business. Now, I want to be really clear here, though. I'm not saying, again, that this is the right way. I'm not saying everyone should want what I want. Your dream life might look completely differently, and that's totally beautiful. This is just me pulling back the curtain on what we've actually built, because I spent a long time thinking that it wasn't possible. And if hearing that it's possible for someone else helps you believe it might be possible for you, then that is exactly why I'm saying it. You do not have to earn your life through exhaustion. You get to design it. So we're going to talk about how to actually do that starting at home. And side note, if you're the type of person who genuinely loves to work, like if people ask you, what's your hobby? And you're like, I build businesses. Well, cool. I'm not saying that you can't work all the time. Choosing how much you want to is part of that lifestyle richness. Okay, so my husband and I run our family like a business. And I know that sounds a little corporate when you say it out loud, but honestly, it's one of the best decisions we've ever made. And here's what that means in practice, right? Like, we have clarity into everything. Every part of our household has an owner, has a system, and somewhat has documentation. We're not guessing. We're not having the same argument for the 15th time about who's supposed to handle what. So let me break down how we think about it. So we have like department heads. If you've ever worked in a business, you know that every function has a lead. Marketing, operations, finance, whatever it is, someone is accountable, and we apply that same logic at home. So my husband is the head of our household operations, right? He cooks, he cleans, he grocery shops, and I say this with love and full seriousness, he is the head of our security. That man is the reason that our home is safe, stocked, and running. I run the business, I lead our financials, our strategic decisions, and our content, but our roles are not rigid, okay? We overlap constantly. We contribute to each other's departments all the time. But when it comes to executive responsibility, we know who's accountable for what. And that clarity eliminates so much friction. And by the way, clarity is not cold. It's one of the most loving things that you can create in a household. It brings about stability. It brings about peace. You don't have to wonder who's going to do what, right? When everyone knows their role, no one is constantly carrying invisible weight. No one is invisibly judging the other, right? It's just clear where everything goes and who's doing what. Now, I know I mentioned documentation, and that's something that also can feel a little cringy, but here's where it's absolutely not, and it's actually super fun. So I'm going to nerd out a little bit because this is genuinely one of my favorite things that we've uncovered together. So we document everything, like our grocery lists, our financial plans, our schedules, recurring tasks, you name it. It's written down somewhere and accessible to both of us at all times. If one of us is leading a particular area, the other can still see it, contribute, and step in if needed. We don't rely on a mental load, we externalize it, especially because we are both a little bit neurodivergent, right? Sometimes something can go in one ear and out the other, not out of lack of love, but out of attention. So the tool that we use for all of this is Notion. So I use Notion for everything, like personal, business, podcasting, household. It's quite literally mine and our digital brain. It's our digital library, our digital warehouse, our digital schedule. If it lives anywhere in our world, it lives inside of our Notion. Now, I'm not going to go deep into Notion today in this podcast episode because honestly, how I use it and how we use it could be its own podcast series. It could be its own online course. Like everyone's setup is different and there's so much to learn about it. But if you are curious about how I've structured this for our life and our business, this specific tool of Notion, please shoot me an email at hello@marinamars.com and I'm happy to chat through what that might look like for you. But the point isn't Notion specifically. The point is we've picked a tool, we've committed to it, and we want you to be inspired to get out of your head and into a system, and a system that is viewable and shareable by all, not just you, not just your notes app, not just a text log, because things can get lost in the sauce super easy, but you want to find a tool. And again, I genuinely think Notion is the best, way better than Google, way better than plenty of other things I've seen out there. There's so much to it, and I'm so happy to show you. So that being said, though, let's chat a little bit about sharing the load. Like, I want to spend a few minutes on what that actually looks like, because I think that there's a fantasy version and a real version, and the real version is messier, but also so much better. The fantasy version is that you divide everything perfectly in half, no one ever drops the ball, and it's all very fair and balanced. But that's not real life, right? Like the real version is you have seasons. There are seasons where your business is in heavy build phase and your partner carries out more at home. There are seasons where your partner has something big happening and you pick up more. The goal here isn't perfect equality at every moment, but it's that over time and with intention, both people feel like they can actually breathe and put love and time and care and attention into anything that really, sets their soul on fire. Now, this postpartum season specifically, I have to be so honest with you, has been a real reckoning with this. Having a newborn reshuffles everything. Things that used to be automatic require intention again. And the only reason that we've navigated it without completely losing ourselves is because we already had a system. We already had clarity. We already knew who was leading what, right? And going back to the list here, my main focus personally has been keeping this little man alive and doing everything that he needs. I let him lead my day. Any little moment in between that exists, I pop into the business. But other than that, I know I don't have to worry about anything. Not a single dish, not a single piece of laundry, not about making sure I'm fed, not about enrichment. Everything is handled. Everything is taken care of. And that lifestyle richness in and of itself is worth more than $1 million to me. And I'm not saying that we have everything all figured out. I'm saying that the foundation made everything more manageable. And as he grows, as our family grows, as different seasons in life come and different ideas or opportunities arise, we have the foundation that allows that to happen. And as these little ones grow up and they start to take on roles within the household, everything is flexible. Everything is obtainable. As they start to work in our business, the same thing applies. So it's a special place and time to be. But if you're in a season that's hard right now, hear me when I say building the system is not selfish. It's not bureaucratic. It's an act of care for everyone in your household, including yourself. Little man seems to agree here. Just remember that you can't pour from an empty cup, but you also can't pour from a cup with no system for refilling it. Now, I want to come back to something I said at the top of the episode because it's worth sitting in. You get to design the life that you want to live, not the life that looks good on paper, not the life your parents expected, not the life that makes you look productive enough by someone else's standards, but the life that you actually want. For me, that looks like being present for my kid, having and building a business that doesn't require me or us to grind ourselves into the ground, having a husband who's truly my partner, not just in life, but in all of our operations, being able to pick up and go somewhere for a season if we want to, never missing the moments that matter because I was stuck at a desk. And again, none of this happened by accident. It happened because we made decisions over and over again in alignment with what we actually value. And one of those decisions was building the business intentionally. Not just the content, not just the clients, but the entire infrastructure of how it runs so that I can show up to the things that matter without burning everything down. So if you're a podcaster or you're thinking about building something with your content, that infrastructure matters more than most people talk about. That's kind of what everything I do in our business comes back to. Sustainable businesses and sustainable systems that let you actually live your life. So one metaphor that I think is kind of helpful from the visual standpoint is that there are opportunities everywhere. And if you think about the carnival game where the little ducks are passing you by on a little stream, there's ducks everywhere. And, there's just certain ones to pick up that will get you the prize that you want, and others that may need to float by. But the point being that the ducks are everywhere. And it's up to you to figure out which ducks you want to pick up and to be able to have the bandwidth to be able to pick them up. That's what intentional life design is all about. Which brings me to something I want to mention before we close. If you've been building a podcast or you're trying to figure out how to actually make money from one without doing sales calls, without a giant audience, and without burning yourself out or getting sponsors, I want to tell you about something. I have a program called Profitable Podcasting Without Sales Calls, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's about building the kind of podcast infrastructure that works for your life and converts without you having to be on the phone with people constantly to make it happen. Everything I've talked about today, the clarity, the systems, the intentional design, that's the energy of this program, applied specifically to your podcast and how you make money with it. Again, in our dream world, I'm not on the phone. I'm not focused on sales. I like working with people when we are actually clocked in, but I only want to be clocked in 20 hours max per week. So this is how I get around that. Like, this is the magical tool that has allowed us to live this lifestyle and to be able to focus on all the other things. So if that is something that is interesting to you, take a look at the show notes or the episode description. And if it speaks to you, I'd absolutely love to have you inside of that container. So that is a wrap on this episode. Thank you so much for spending time with me. If this episode resonated, share it with someone who needs to hear that they get to design their life, that permission matters. And if you have questions about how I use Notion for household and business management, or you would just like to chat through what your systems could look like, please send me an email, hello@marinamars.com. I love a good operations conversation. I will see you next week in the next episode, so please take care of yourselves. And in the meantime, if you need anything, just let me know.